I feel nauseous, believe me. Never had a lot of shit come easy. Had to work hard, struggle just to be me. Had to and what was left over I put towards my dreaming. But the only thing in life that has meaning are the things you gotta work for, believe me. Take into your hands a plan, your own hands can land your own brand. And damn, I feel like no one takes accountability. They want the credibility, convincingly unwilling to put in the hours it takes to get some power. Don't be f***ing sour, take a cold shower. Scream until you're louder, work until you're prouder. And f*** all the doubters, they're just young downers. I swear to God they all let me down. I always fought. I
can tell you that 7 years after Freddie Gray, that was 2015, spring, April, May. This is 2022. Communities like Sandtown, all we saw then and now in terms of investment was a renovated Western District Police Station and a new funeral home. That's what West Baltimore got. A new police station and a new funeral home. What kind of optics are they? Was Freddie Gray any different than 1968 Baltimore riots? Dr. King's passing, killing, murder? This is the same?
No, it wasn't. I mean, I think, well, first of all, people who are being violent and burning, that's, all that's the same. But the point is what was the cause and what were they attempting to register?
I always fought just to wear the crown. I'm off at these fucking clowns. I love you. They deserve an ounce. It's got next. And I'll be up. It's only worth it if you work for it. I won't stop till they hear me now. I won't stop till I wear the crown. I swear to God they all let me down. I always fought just to wear the crown. I'm off at these fucking clowns.
First name's Doni, last name's Glover. In it to win it for the long haul, baby. It's a very special show today. Let me get my shotgun here. Riding shotgun, Andy Pierre. Are you there, Andy?
Yes, sir.
We're going straight across the world, Andy. Do you know where we're going?
Are we going to the Middle East?
Yes, sir. We're going live from Dubai. I messed this up. Let me get this right. Boom, boom. There we go. Yeah, live from Dubai. Watch this, Andy. Are you ready? Andy, you're not ready for this. You're not ready for this. This cat, I mean, he's just, he got 12-foot robots. I asked him, are they black or they white? He said they're silver. Okay, here we go. Michael Haney, live from Dubai.
Andy and Doni, good to see you, man. Good to see you. Can you hear me okay? Because there's a little noise in the background with 50,000 attendees to the largest technology conference in the world, JITEC. I also have a couple of compadres here, Doni, at your leisure that would be happy to get on with you and give you their perspective, man. But a lot happening over here in the Middle East.
Jumbo!
Yeah.
Oh, they just messed up my introduction. Jumbo!
So I think they're moving around, getting situated, Doni.
Kathy and Betty, can you hear us? But we can't hear you.
Hi, Doni. It's Kat. I was on mute.
Jumbo!
Jumbo. Hi.
Mr. Dashiell, say hello to Betty and Kathy. They're in Dubai with Michael Haney.
Hello, Betty and Kathy. Dubai with Michael Haney.
Hey, Bob. How you doing, man? Good to see you. Always.
I hear a voice that I recognize. I don't see a face. Where are you?
He's in the top left.
Okay, now I know who I'm talking to. Good morning, there, Mr. Annie. How are you over there?
Hey, things are good, man. Following the money, as you always say, and definitely bringing back opportunity for all of us, man. It's been an amazing 5 days, short, but amazing and productive over here in Dubai or in the Middle East, man, and related to the politics of America. But, I'm going to let Doni guide what he wants to talk to us about.
All right, well, look, you have the wire instructions, so I'll be checking the account.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. That's real important.
So Michael Haney, who's the guy behind you?
This is who's behind me directly. Just someone with the conference. We're in the big media room and the big stage. So things are off. They said, hey, why don't you do your live podcast from our mainstream?
Okay, so what's been happening with the GTEC conference?
So the GITEC, because my pronunciation of it initially is GITEC, right? Conference is about technology, artificial intelligence. We've had some amazing opportunities to meet some significant high-level people. One thing that we want to ensure is that Black America does not miss out on this technological opportunity. And there hasn't been many, although there was, Doni, yesterday, Betty and I had a chance to experience the Youth Scientist of the Year as determined by Time Magazine, right? 15-year-old kid, immigrant from Ethiopia that lives in Virginia, 15 years old. He captured the main stage, Doni, and he captivated the audience. And what his report was on skin cancer. We all know that this month is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and it is all over the world. But this young man, 15 years old, his presentation was on skin cancer, and he captivated an audience and a technology related to skin cancer. Hey, you have people, Doni, that are working on an app called Hospitals on Phone. And I'm like, what is that? Able to be diagnosed? Because if you're in the middle of somewhere that you don't have access to a hospital per se, there's technological features on apps and phones that give you the same sort of triage and access to top medical advice and personnel. For self-treatment, I'm not sure. We're exploring that, Doni.
Okay. What else?
And people all around me, Doni, now, as you see, because people want to capture, people know that we're broadcasting, so you'll see people in and out, which is a good thing. A good thing. But, as I mentioned, Betty and Kat are here, getting their perspective of Dubai itself, or Dubai, which we said is a state of the United Arab Emirates with over 600,000 people populating it. 92% of the people in Dubai are not from Dubai. They're from over 200 countries. So everyone comes here for the money opportunity. Doni, is the cleanest country and economy I've ever seen in my world, in my life. Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. How they are exact in everything from cabs to food to hotels. These people do things absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Andy, you got any questions for Michael?
I'm just amazed. And they're rich. They're rich, but there's a lot of money coming in. Yes.
Well, I'm kind of like just hanging on every word, really. Like, okay, I mean, so do you see anything as far as technological things that you think might be helpful for, let's say, the city of Baltimore, as far, when it comes to like public works?
It's amazing you say that, because when we come back, there was a conference that we attended this morning on cyber theft, and we know that Baltimore City was a victim of cyber and ransom attack, right? And so they had these world-renowned experts that you'll hear us talk about Baltimore, which they were very much aware of, and whether you would pay a ransom or whether you wouldn't pay a ransom, and how it handcuffed the city of Baltimore and Baltimore's determination to pay the ransom. They said, well, Baltimore could have invested in the technology to stop cyber attacks and ransomware attacks instead of paying the ransom. So you'll hear on the clip that Doni, hopefully the next week or two, as he brings us back with some of the robotic clips that we have, some of the visuals of the city of Dubai, as well as our segment that we did with these world-renowned experts on ransomware attacks on Baltimore, and some of what has been advanced in technology in that regard. But I'm hoping someone like Bob, first of all, I'd love to bring my partners Betty and Kat in to get their perspective, but I'm hoping someone asks me, hey, Mike, well, what do they think? What are they asking you about politics in America? Because that's pretty interesting, particularly with the fact that the States just yesterday funded what? They funded weaponry to Israel, right? They also are concerned about the election between Kamala and Donald Trump. So here we are, thousands of miles away, and people understand the relative influence of what's happening in the United States in the next 20, 21 days. But talk to my partners, man, while I get a gulp of water. I haven't been to bed in 24 hours looking to do this podcast.
Okay.
Hi.
Hello,
I'm
Betty
Betty.
Jumbo.
Nice to meet you, John Bo. Doni, Andy, and Robert. Nice to meet you. It's amazing here in Dubai, the GITEX Global Trade Center in Dubai. And it's a lot. That's what I can say. There's so much to take in, so many people to meet, a lot of contacts to take, and a lot to learn. And the conferencing and the learning and the talking, the stages where there are people talking are so many. It's amazing how many economies are here. And I was commenting to Mike that there's a lot of America here. I mean, every other speaker I've listened to, and especially yesterday, we got to interact with a few Americans on stage talking about technology and how they're working with the UAE. So that's an interesting perspective for the world over, because when we came here, we thought it was all about Dubai, but now we found it's actually a global thing. And we need to be alive to the fact that it's been happening from 2017, and this is 2024, and it seems to be getting bigger and better. Yeah, so nice to meet you guys. I'm excited here with Mike.
Mr. Dashiell, any questions for Betty?
We're doing a live.
Do you have my wire instructions, Betty?
Sorry?
Do you
I didn't
have
get that.
instructions on how to wire funds to my account?
Not yet. Perhaps you can send your number.
Do not leave Dubai with any funds there that should have been wired to me. That's all I'm saying.
I must warn you, there's a lot of cybersecurity here, and US has been flagged. We watched that, so we'll do our best.
All right, okay.
Can't promise you. Yeah, I'm from Kenya, and I love the fact that me and Mike came up with this idea from our partner to come over to Dubai and, see what we can connect, what contacts we can get, and perhaps bring business to Kenya. And our call center is more of a social enterprise, and our vision is to create jobs in Kenya, a minimum of 5,000 jobs in the next 5 years, hopefully all digital, and give a decent wage. And we keep saying, give us work instead of aid. I'm in HR in Kenya, and I see the desperation when it comes to employment, and even the people who are employed do not get decent wages or good working conditions. So we are hoping that this can take off how it's supposed to, and we do something where Black Americans and Black Kenyans come together and do good for fellow Africans here.
Would you describe Dubai as a capitalist or a socialist country, or neither?
I was discussing that with Mike. I was asking, this seems a little bit socialist, but we agreed eventually that it is actually not quite democratic. It's more of a dictatorship, or rather a benevolent dictatorship, because the structure and the system and the control is, wow, unbelievable in terms of how the government is able to, for example, just control how the cab drivers work around here. They cross their T's and dot their I's to the letter, and they all work like clockwork. I don't know whether we can be able to achieve that in America. Let's not talk about Kenya, but this is serious control. So I'd look at it as some benevolent dictatorship, not quite a fully capitalist system. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd add to that, Bob. I would say that it is a thriving, it is a autocratic, perhaps even dictatorial environment that thrives on the tenets of capitalism. Man, money is all over the place, and everyone's employed. The place is clean. You know, everything is of quality. Everything is done well. People just mind their business. When you have 92% of the people that occupy Dubai from various countries, you have amenities of each of those 200 countries, because the sheik wants to make everyone comfortable and respect each other, but he also wants control, right? So he ensures that if you want a Texas Longhorn steak, because you're from America, well, you have Texas Longhorn steak in the biggest mall in the world, as well as a Dublin pub if you're from Ireland, or Lebanese food if you're from Lebanon, has amenities of all of these countries so that everyone is happy and work collectively and live in community. They don't have much issue. Betty was informing me that the police said if there was a car accident between a car and a cab, that accident is cleaned up in 10 minutes. And you better not take a picture of the accident scene or you will be arrested. Right? So there's a modulum of control, but there's also a sense of freedom. Some of the things that we think that women with coverings and not holding hands and them not selling hotel rooms to people who are not married that sleep in the same, some of those are misnomers here in Dubai. Now you go further to Iraq, where a good friend of ours is from. Iraq, one of the best relationships we formed here, someone from Iraq and Iran. And what does our U.S. government think about that right now? You know what I'm saying? But this is what it is. This is the true melting pot of the world in Dubai. Dubai is the melting pot that America claims it is. Dubai is it. And the people over here thrive.
But you know,
and I know
what you described with full employment and people able to earn wages in sufficient amount to take care of their families with the almost complete absence of poverty, that is not capitalism. And that's not capitalism as it's practiced or known in this country anyway. So that's why
you can't define capitalism based on the U.S. Maybe the U.S. model of capitalism is such that it has been distorted and it has been surpassed by a country like Dubai that says, hey, you can work how you want to work, you can make what you make, and they ensure people get a fair wage. You can buy the home that you can afford based on what you work, which to me is capitalism, and you can make as much as you want to make. You can work 2 or 3 jobs. The point of it is that we ensure that the employers that employ you are paying you a fair wage. The housing conditions you live in, regardless of what level of wage you make, is something that is human, and that the medical conditions, the medical opportunities, except their use of technology, Bob, is such that it consolidates some cost factors. And let's talk about the pharmaceutical situation in the U.S. or the insurance situation in the U.S. where people are exploited, okay, where that may not necessarily be the case here. So maybe our perception of what capitalism is or should be, or the model that we initially intended, maybe we should come elsewhere to get an idea of what that looks like.
So, Mike, when are you moving to Dubai for permanent?
Hey, so I talked about that. No, I'm not moving. If I move anywhere, I'll move to Kenya with my sisters and brothers that I adopted, that we have business in Kenya. But Dubai is a wonderful, beautiful place. But I'm not interested in moving here. I'm interested in doing business with them because they're amenable to me. I've not felt a hint of racism or anything of that sort at all. You know, the Indians control a lot of the a lot of the uh, regulatory stuff here. Of course, the sheik and his people are at top. They own the country. But when it comes to the policing and some of the regulatory places, the Indians control a lot of that because most of the people that are from Dubai, they get a subsidy from the oil. And so their concept of work is a bit different, right? But I've been treated fairly. People look at me, they talk with me, they accommodate me, they have amenities that are geared to me. And the reason that we came over and we've had the conversation with people we've engaged is that Black America has to have a more stronger presence, and maybe it'll be in Tech, Nigeria next September, or in Morocco, the African Tech in April, where we have more of a presence, understand this technology for the benefit of consolidation and opportunity to keep more dollars in our community, because that's what they're using it for. Some of the technology, man, that you see over here, and we want to think that we want to go to war with somebody. Oh my goodness, amazing.
Yeah.
I missed that, Andy. What did he say?
You said some of the technology they have over there is really quite amazing. Meanwhile, we think that and honestly, like I'm the American government tends to be about 10 years or so behind on implementation of most good things, technologically speaking. And so, I mean, it's good to know that there is an example elsewhere that, that can be followed to show that some of this stuff does work. Um,
Andy, you
Now
got a
you said
point.
you mentioned. Mhm.
Uh huh. Go ahead for your
You
question,
mentioned
man. I'm
earlier
sorry.
that there was a lot of talks about the political ramifications of a Trump election down there.
Hmm.
Oh, are we talking about in the context of economics, international economics?
Well, economics have to do with the stability of countries related to war, right? We talked about on Doni's show the other day with the perception in some countries, including countries of Kenya, that people believe that we need strong leadership coming out of America. They're not afraid of dictatorial governments because many of them
Dictatorial.
have dictatorial, whatever you want to pronounce it at. But I'm not going to correct you, so just send me a note later and correct me. But you understand
Salam
what I'm
alaikum,
talking
brother.
about.
Salam alaikum.
It's all good, right? That they're not afraid of that because they live in that, and that seems to be something that they're used to. People that stay in office forever, forever and ever, be it the Ayatollah, be it the Sheikh, be it prime ministers, whatever. They're used to that. So they're not afraid if Donald Trump went in office and stayed in office. They like the fact that they believe he's an intimidating factor in force,
He's a
and that
criminal.
he will. I'm just giving you a perspective of what they think,
If he
right?
were black, he
Over
would
here.
be under the penitentiary.
Wait a
Or,
second. Wait a
or
second.
maybe he would be compared to Idi Amin, right? They loved Idi Amin in Uganda.
But
Did they?
what is the source, Mike and Betty? What is the primary source of information in Dubai about what's going on in this country or in the rest of the world? What do they rely upon as a creditable source of information?
BBC.
I'll let Betty answer that, but I'll
Well,
give you an instance. Go ahead, Betty.
Well, I've seen quite a number of TV stations represented here in Dubai, CNN, CNBC. Even one of the presenters here in the main stage was from Australia, CNBC. So I believe they are connected to the main media houses around the world.
So
Um,
do you believe that this source of information about this country is the same source that people in this country rely upon? CNN, the so-called mainstream media, is that what it appears to be there?
Yep, it looks like they have it here. I don't know to what extent the social media is controlled here, but it seems pretty open. So, what I feel is that people here are just happy with systems and structures that are working and maybe do not question um, the process of how that gets done. They
So
don't question the governance, they
right.
just run with it because it's working for them.
So so their impression of this country and the people in this country, Trump and other people, is formed or at least significantly influenced by the media of this country.
Should be, yes.
Absolutely. And I'm gonna jump in and say
All
that
right.
you're right to a large extent, Bob. And they believe that CNN and certain media profiles out of the US are no worse than the controlled media in a country like the Soviet Union or Russia. They
Okay.
believe CNN does the same thing that Russian media does. It controls the narrative, controls the messaging, et cetera, and they formulate their own opinions based on certain factors and certain information. Then you have Al Jazeera, right? That reports a lot differently than CNN
Right.
International does. But they believe that CNN International is no better than Russian controlled media, to your point.
What about BBC?
I have looked at some BBC when I was in Kenya, and it seems they all seem to have the same factor. Al Jazeera seems to be one of the more credible source of a, like if you watch CNN last night when they were talking about Kamala Harris, right? It seemed to be tilted, right? It seemed to be tilted, which is always the case with CNN. They seem to pick favors, just like Fox News picks favors in terms of Republicans. And this is what distorts the credibility of a news coming to America. So Al Jazeera does a very good job. BBC does a fairly decent job of giving a more arbitrary opinion.
Okay.
Tell us about those robots, Mike.
Well, we were talking about for a second, and be happy to get back to the political perspective, because they wanted to know as a Black American what my perspective was and where I thought, because they know how we're treated in our own country as we come elsewhere, and we're treated differently, fairly. I go to Kenya and I'm able to collaborate on business. A plane load of Prince Georgians and Baltimoreans are leaving next Friday to go to Ghana for a collaborative opportunity. The robotic stuff is unbelievable. See, we think that it's replacing us in terms of the workforce, where it is an opportunity to get scale, to look at scale, for the ability to start small businesses in our environments. It isn't always looked at. It has to be looked at as a more positive way. Like, we've got facial recognition technology all over this place. We've been in here most of the day since yesterday, and they have pictures. We're able to hit a scan, and it shows us ourselves, our faces, our interaction, our engagement. They showed me how they are, because Uber is big over here. Uber is big in Europe. How the technology to keep Uber drivers safe with facial recognition of passengers, etc. It's on a whole different level, man.
What about
Like,
these robots as military personnel?
hey, I would love that if it takes the place of me having to send my 10 grandsons or 12 grandsons and 4 granddaughters potentially over to a country unbeknownst to them. Go for it. Let the robots break each other out like they did in the Lost in Space series several decades ago. All for
Betty,
it.
are you okay with a robot checking your ID?
Well, I think I'll say I'm fairly used to it now, and I expect anything. I may not be okay with it though. The human interaction is something we need by nature socially. But at the end of the day, now we are becoming less and less social beings, which is affecting our own state of socialization, possibly even mental health. So while I like the efficiency that comes with it, even if I'm in human resource, so I'm not totally against AI robots coming to replace humans. They don't replace humans, they basically increase efficiency. But we'll have to, if we don't come up with methods of, finding how to fill the gaps where social interaction was in place, we'll feel the pain eventually, and the generations to come will suffer in one way or another.
Attorney Dashiell, has the law caught up with robotics yet? Can you imagine a robotics gun trace task force in Baltimore?
That's crazy. It sounds crazy.
Attorney Dashiell.
Donnie, the issue is who decides. Robots in the hands of the wrong people are no different than 9mm guns in the hands of the wrong people.
That's true.
So the question I have, there's a collision there's an inherent and unavoidable conflict between technology and humanity, and it's unavoidable. It's inevitable. The technology says produce more, faster, more efficiently. Humanity says we got to save everybody who's worth saving and who's trying to get to do the best they can. Those things, there's an inherent and inevitable conflict. That conflict has never been more evident than in the longshoremen strike. If you recall, the longshoremen went on strike for two reasons: not just to increase wages, but to make sure that the jobs were preserved in the face of technology. Now, we heard about the wage settlement resulted in a suspension of the strike until January. The more interesting and more critical issue is how they mesh the conflict between technology and automation and the need for those men and women in the industry to continue to be able to earn a living.
Andy, any thoughts on this?
So, as someone I have a background in technology, so I'm very partial to bringing in technology because I don't believe technology could ever replace a human being because it can't think on its own. It can just process information that somebody already thought of. It can't make everything that is, even with AI. AI doesn't come up with anything new. It researches through everything that's already available to it and then comes up with an assumption based off of that. Now, that even with the best AI systems, it's always going to require human interaction. Now, I feel as though there is too much of an attempt to figure out how to make technology the end all be all, as opposed to creating technological tools that make it so that a human is more efficient. Like if you look at the way technology has historically evolved, right? You got the cotton gin and whatnot that was created to make dealing with cotton easier. It doesn't remove the need for humans. Like even to this day, the way we process raw material still requires humans. But what we keep what a lot of the pushback is just being is misthought of, right? Because the thing is the humans, we are consuming more and more every year, and I don't know if the workforce can even keep up with the amount of consumption that is happening, right? You have things that are sitting on a boat for months and months because the longshoremen can't get to it fast enough. Now, it's not necessarily every single port that operates like that, but when you look at it worldwide, that is the case. So new technology to make the job of easier or more efficient is something that has to happen. Now, does the technology have to be created in a mindset of removing the human from the situation? That's where the breakdown comes. Because
I'm going to interject. I'm going to interject because this is exactly the reason why we need to be over here, Andy. Someone like you that is a technological guru, perhaps, to see the innovation. I saw a tray carrier of a robot that could bring 5 plates to 3 different tables and know which tables to take it to in a restaurant because we can't get people in America to work in restaurants.
Mike, what happens when that robot pimp slaps you? This domestic violence month.
Hey, it's pretty interesting because one robot, and we'll send you the clip, Donnie, that hopefully you'll use in the future, turned around and swung when I asked him for a hug, right? No longer than a couple hours ago. But Andy, we have got to begin to look at.
Robots aren't racist, Mike.
He didn't seem to recognize anything related to color about me. He just wanted to know from a question perspective. Like Andy said, there's a bank of information that may be there. I asked some relevant questions and answered, and I was good with it. Can they be programmed that way? Well, look at human beings. Racism is a program, and it's beginning to be. Bob and I have had this debate. Is racism learned, or is it a behavior that is inherited? Because if your parents are racist, then chances are you're going to be a racist too. But I want to go back to the technology, which is important while we're over here. And it's not always about replacing human beings. Andy said, well, let's augment human beings with the, human beings tend to be lazy sometimes. And they're looking for something to do the job for them where they're just pushing a button necessarily. And that's not the case. Technology isn't always about, AI isn't always about replacing human labor. Supplementing it and growing capacity and ability for us to expand as a result of it, that's the way we have to look at it from that perspective.
Well, I'm sorry, I watched iRobot, and I know eventually they're going to turn. Betty, are there any other African nations who have joined Kenya on this quest for 21st century technology? Do you see any other African nations represented there in Dubai?
Yeah, plenty of them. They're here, but not in large numbers as I would have thought. There's a lot of Nigeria, I've noticed. I guess it has to do with the fact that the next GTEx platform is in Nigeria. But it doesn't mean that we are not aware of it. Possibly we are getting it on media, but I would have expected a little bit more of Africa, and I didn't see it.
How do we expand technology from an indigenous African perspective? How do we get more African nations involved?
Well, I guess we need to go to Africa, and possibly Morocco and Nigeria are the beginning of it. I'm surprised they're not yet in Kenya. Maybe we have our political issues that are a bit heavy. But Kenya, if you ask me, is way ahead in terms of like mobile money platform. I think we are world known for that. In terms of human resource and capacity and skill, IT is way ahead in Kenya in terms of infrastructure. So I guess I'd want to see and hear more and more happening within Africa. And I guess the side effect to all this technology coming in and trying to say that we are moving AI and we are removing the human perspective is that on the counter effect is we have now excessive investment in cyber security, because ultimately there is no system that is superior to the human mind. So you create systems that work for the humans and the humans attack the systems. So I think it's going to be a run around in the circle, because at the end of the day, we are still going down to the fact that we have to not necessarily control the human mind, but we have to respond to its needs. That's what I think.
Let me say this. 5 years ago, if I wanted a memorandum of law done and research, I would have engaged a paralegal or a law clerk, and I would have said, you've got 20 hours to complete this task. Today, I push a button called co-counsel on my computer. I tell them the facts, and 10 minutes later, I have a memorandum. So the notion that it's easy to say that technology is there to enhance and improve the ability of humans to do the job, but the fact of the matter is that technology, for the most part, has been used to replace human. Now, wait
a minute.
Let me
you made a quick point, though. You said that previously you would send it off to a person who would augment your ability to do your job. Basically, you sent it off to a paralegal, and that paralegal's whole purpose in life was to augment your ability.
But Andy, some human being lost 20 hours worth of pay because of technology on my computer. That's my point. Now, that's a good thing for me, because I didn't have to wait 20 hours for them to give me the work product. I could get it in 15 minutes. But what I'm saying, the point is simply this. There is a natural and inevitable collision conflict between technology and humanity, and it's inevitable. One is not intended to replace the other. One is not intended to be absolute. But what's important is somebody's got to make the decision about where to draw the line.
And you made the decision in your business to replace the person with the technology. You made the decision because you're absolutely right. And so you did it for cost efficiencies, because maybe some people may interpret it as you were greedy, instead of taking that human labor and maybe turn them to marketing so that you can get more capacity. It's all the way that we look at things.
That's right.
And that's why it's important that we come to technological conferences like this and see the exploration and other ideas, so that we're not always thinking of the mindset of replacement, like hotel workers think they get robotic this, robotic that, we won't have a job. Well, maybe it gives you an opportunity to do something different that may pay you more, that may not be as labor intensive.
Mr. Dashiell,
So we have to look at things
And
different.
those robots still need maintenance. Those robots still need somebody to
And it pays more.
upkeep
It
them
pays
every
more.
day. And most of the
Doni.
time, it's like after every task. Like those robots that are doing the servings and whatnot in the store, you're not going to tell me that they're just, it's all autonomous. There's absolutely no human interaction. It's set it and forget it. It just wouldn't work.
I hope we're not going to dispute the fact that technology has resulted, perhaps intentionally or not, but you're not going to dispute the fact that technology has resulted in the loss of employment for a significant number of people. Now, you're not going to dispute that. Does technology
I am absolutely going to dispute it.
Somebody
I'm going to dispute that.
Screws.
Well,
I'm going to dispute that.
Ask the longshoremen who went on strike over that issue. Ask the thousands of people in the auto industry who lost jobs because of technology. Now, that doesn't mean technology won't produce new jobs. Don't get me wrong. Yes, technology produces new jobs, but never, ever in the same number as those that were lost. Never.
Yeah, all the black jobs got lost. All the black jobs got lost because that's the mentality. That's the mentality that we look at it. Hey, Doni, you know you got Kathy here who can speak to the amenities here in Dubai, right?
Okay,
So that's what Donald Trump meant about the black jobs.
Okay,
y'all get ready to get me ticked off.
Okay, Mr. Dashiell, can you imagine sending a robot to court to represent the Dashiell law firm?
I can. I absolutely can. If somebody came to me and it's a small claim for $5,000 and they want representation, and I know that I will rarely rise for that amount of money, but I can send a robot for $1,500 and the court will accept that robot and allow the robot to practice law. Absolutely, I do it every day, and because that will improve, that will enhance the ability of people who really can't afford me or another lawyer, in human form, that will allow them to get some legal representation.
Let's get real, Bob. What it would allow you to do is have 1,000 more clients, because you would have that capacity, right? It's a matter, I'm not saying you're greedy, but that's the concept.
You did call him greedy. You did call him greedy.
Conceptually, right? But that's what it do. That's what we talk about, capacity. Capacity would give him capacity, not necessarily compassion. Compassion would be to ensure that he didn't replace the person. Now that he has capacity, maybe pay him better and train him and send him to school to be a paralegal or an attorney like him. That's compassion. Don't forget about Cat. Don't forget about Cat here.
Come on the screen,
in the court of law, you couldn't put a robot anyway, because there's too many different variables that come into every single case, even your simplest case. That's why they say there's no slam dunks in law, right?
Kathy,
Which means that even the simplest case is going to be variations. There's never going to be able to put a robot that can think. A robot cannot think.
And then what's the difference? What's the difference between a robot coming to court and somebody putting a blood sample in a vial and telling the computer to analyze it? It's the same. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. And that evidence from that analysis performed by that computer, then admitted in the evidence to help determine the outcome of it. It's the same principle. It's just expanded.
So how is it?
It's applied in a different way.
Robot doesn't get tired. Robot doesn't call out sick. Bob doesn't have to pay the robot a salary, only maintenance. He doesn't have to feed it. Doesn't have to worry about it taking a smoke break. So when to Bob Dashiell, attorney at law.
But he does have to make sure that the correct data is inputted, because if the wrong thing goes in, the wrong thing comes out.
That's great. So hire
the
that
thing is,
person.
though, you got to remember, a robot is only going to be able to do what it's programmed to do, which means that it's going to be based off of the letter of the law and precedences. A robot will never be able to set a precedent, because there would be nothing for them to go off of.
And a robot given the same data, I mean, it's done every day. In sports, they call it now analytics. The analytics are making decisions for people like John Harbaugh and others every day.
The analytics are not making the decisions. The analytics are.
It's the humans that's making decisions. All of the analytics is giving you the information. It still boils down to that human making that final decision to call whether to use that analytic data or not.
The fact of the matter is,
analytics is shooting dice.
The fact of the matter is, the analytics. That's two kinds of decisions: those who make it and those who effectively make it. I'm suggesting to you that the result is actually the same. You can say all you want that John Harbaugh is making the final decision, but the fact of the matter is he's making it based upon what the analytics tell him. So who actually made the decision, the analytics or him? So my point
is because the thing is,
it's the human.
It's the decisions human. Without information. Yes. The analytics all it's doing is giving you a compilation of historical data or data that's been collected. So like that's like anybody who's making an educated guess looks at the data. Anybody who's like, the thing is, every decision that is an educated decision requires data to back it up.
Analytics is not looking at raw data. Analytics is looking at data that's been evaluated and assessed for you by some artificial intelligence.
That's real. That's real. I agree with that. I agree with that.
Personally.
What?
When I'm trying to compile an analytics report, I'm the one who sets all of the parameters that I want reported on and how it's compiled and how it's presented. It's all up to me, the human.
This is why
I feel. But no matter what, we can have all the robots we want in this world, all across this country. The final decision is still going to come down to us humans. That's just my thinking. I don't think the human is ever going to get replaced by the robot, because, like you said, you got to manage it, you got to program it. You want the robot to do whatever you want to do. So you're still going to have have us as humans.
I agree. Which makes my issue all the more critical. Who decides? Who decides? That is the ultimate question. And the more data, the more we rely upon the computer, the more we rely upon AI, the more we rely upon those tools is absolutely critical, because of the potential variability in the input of the data to those resources. Our ability, the output from the AI is, as Andy said over and over again, results from the data that's inputted, the program that's used. If the wrong people are making the decisions about what goes in, then you can rest assured that what goes out ain't going to be favorable to the people who are not associated with the one who made that decision. And so in the final analysis, that is, and I'll say this and I'm gonna shut up, there's only one real issue in the universe. The most important issue is who decides. Who decides what data goes in? Who decides what that data means? Who decides how to apply that data?
Us humans, because us humans are putting that data in the system.
I got to be more specific than that. I don't want it to leave it to just us humans. I want to know your name. I want to know your phone number. I want to be the one who makes it.
Bob, you have a point. But where I'm at, who decides technology? Who decides technology?
Betty, Kat, do you see any Russians, any Asians, any Germans?
Asians are. I've seen Asians. I've seen Germans. Yes.
Everybody's
here.
Anybody more represented?
Mid-Easterners. It's in Dubai. It's in a Mid-Eastern country. Iranians are here. Iraqis, Saudi Arabians.
I have a question for you guys, though.
And you're talking
I have a question for you guys, because this whole discussion has brought up one focal thought for me. Now, in Africa and over there, if you can find it, if you know anything about the Dubai, what's going on over there, did their educational infrastructure change to accommodate all of this new technology that they're injecting into the society. Like,
I think Betty told you about that when she talked about the simple example of taxi cabs and how the government regulates. I think they absolutely have influenced and have put in place the technology that's being developed. They're developing it over here, and they're sharing it among Arabic countries.
Betty, how's the education?
No, I'm talking about like public school. Like, I don't even know if they have a public school system, but like the baseline education that the whole society is getting, does it accommodate for new technologies?
Betty?
Maybe you could repeat that. I didn't catch it from the beginning. Sorry, I didn't have the microphone.
So I'm trying to figure out
public
whether
schools, do they have technology?
But
technology in schools?
The kids,
yes.
Are they teaching the kids how to, is it incorporated into the curriculum in a way where when they come out of school, they're not behind the learning curve like most American kids coming out of high school now? They don't really understand how to use a computer for, stuff like that, even though we give them computers.
It is incorporated in the private school, which only covers a very, very small minority in Africa. In the public schools, we are talking about. Oh, you're talking about Dubai. I thought you talked about in Kenya.
Dubai.
Dubai is ahead of its time when it comes to school. Oh, they are way, way ahead when it comes to technology. And they have the systems and structures in all the schools, public.
Does every child in Dubai have an opportunity to go to school and to continue in school in whatever course subject matter, and for as long as they want to stay to the conclusion or whatever the highest level may be in that particular subject matter?
Absolutely.
I say that because there's some countries, for example, that decide who can go to college and they pay for it, but they decide who can go. They apply they give certain tests. And if you pass this test, you can go on, you can become a gymnast. If you pass this test, you can go on and you can become a mathematician. But it's not wide open that anybody can go and pursue anything they want for as long as they want.
Well, Bob, what you're saying is that they're very strategic in their workforce and their needs from a technological, scientific, research perspective. So they deploy people, and educationally they send people where they have a need for the strength. So maybe there's a war coming up in the next 10 years. So we're going to send people to research and military school. So that is one of the points of being an authoritarian state, to be able to gear people and guide people to where it is that the needs of the country are, particularly as you see in the Middle East.
Betty, could you live in Dubai?
Sorry?
Could you live in Dubai?
Oh, I love Dubai, but in terms of socialization, it doesn't come close to Kenya. So I'll be here for holiday, but I'd rather live in Kenya.
Why is that? Why is that?
Well, I think it is ahead of its time. I think it has all the structures that maybe Africa doesn't have, but despite us being behind in Kenya, we have the human touch that we are yet to lose. And however, I must put a disclaimer and say life in Africa is good if you have a good education and you have a decent wage. Which I'll say I have, so I'm able to play golf and live well in Africa and in Kenya particularly.
Did you beat Michael Haney in golf?
Absolutely. Well, last time he didn't play with me.
Very good.
But Betty, listen to what you just said. You said that Kenya and maybe Africa, I'm not sure, but they were behind except for the human touch. See, that is a fundamental problem. The human touch should be on top of everything, because ultimately it's our humanity is what is all we have, is the most important thing that we have. So your assessment that somebody, because they're technologically advanced, puts them ahead of a country that still has the human touch, that's what's got us so screwed up in the head.
I think so. Maybe we are putting it in the wrong way, that the people
Yes.
who have the human touch are behind and actually
Yes.
they're ahead. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I'll even
think
give
the-
my own example and say, I do have assistants, and I know I would normally want them to be virtual assistants because I'm a consultant, so I don't necessarily want to set up an office. I work from home. But at some point, I actually felt the need to sit with someone. So the last assistant that I employed, I told her, I need to see you twice or thrice a week. There's some level of connection and feeling like I'm actually offloading work with her when I sit with her as compared to sending messages and emails. And I feel it. I feel like she's relieving me of something. So myself, who started by saying like, I don't want to see you, you stay at home, work from home, get things done. At some point I felt overwhelmed and I need to see her and say, yeah, you sit here, I'll tell you what to do. And it works faster and better. Communication is easier when I tell you, I'm giving you instructions from human to human. That I must say. So we are losing that thing and thinking technology will replace it. It cannot. It cannot replace it. Yeah.
And it should not. It should not.
Cat,
It depends on the goals of the
Cat,
country.
can you get a
Cat, you
robot?
got
Cat,
She can hear you now, Donnie. Ask her the question again. She can hear you now.
Cat, can you get a robot made of Michael Haney and leave him there and bring back the robot?
You know what, Donnie? I don't know. No, I'll keep him as he is. I have to admit.
Wow.
If you
I'm
bring
gonna
back the
keep him
robot,
as
we
he
wouldn't
is.
get the latest version.
Wow.
We wouldn't have the latest version of Michael Haney.
Absolutely. And you wouldn't get all those different versions either. So just keep him as he is. We don't want Donnie. Do you really
that's the
want
one
another
thing about
Michael
a human.
Haney? Do you really want another Michael Haney roaming around, Donnie?
I want to see his robot. Yes.
I think the question that we've danced around a little bit here is that how do we as Black nations and Black communities and within white nations leverage this new technology to advance ourselves and not get left behind? Because
So I'm going to take a stab at that because that's exactly the reason why I spent thousands of dollars to come over here to take back and report as we're doing on this Black media platform that question, because we're doing a lot of speculation tonight, right? Or this morning, when we have to investigate and be present and understand the technology to the point of what Bob said, the longshoremen, displacement, misplacement of job, technology used incorrectly. Could we have mitigated crime issues in our urban city by facial recognition technology, which city councils across the country threw out the door because they thought it was an invasion of privacy, as we were killing each other in our cities with facial recognition, which they will tell you over here would have mitigated crime issues almost immediately in our urban and inner cities, man. So we got to be upfront, present, and in person to understand where technological advancements can give us capacity, density, and keep the Black dollar in the Black community a lot longer than the 6 hours that it survives right now, because we're always behind the 8 ball. And I'll shut up now. Matter of fact, let me drop the mic.
He did it.
Let me have your headphones.
Literally.
Betty, how do we get African nations to work together better with African Americans?
Well, I'd say first we need to work on ourselves first within Africa, because there's a lot of what I'd say is some inferiority complex, where we tend to feel that others are superiors. And when I sit here with Mike and Kathy, I don't feel any different. I've been socialized, educated in Africa, Kenya, and yet I can sit, reason, do business with them. So we need to get over that barrier first, because we still tend to feel that the Americans are different. Even Black Americans are different, and they're not different. They're just like you and me, and our purposes, our vision is the same. Once we get that done, and it's through communication, and I think it's more human interaction and putting the the American, the Black American in context, in person, where we physically communicate and interact, whether it's through exchange programs, and then we understand that even the basics like thinking like you can live the American dream just by getting an air ticket and going to America needs to be understood better than by Africans. Like literally everyone is scrambling to get a green card to America. And if you ask me to live in America, I prefer to live in Kenya. Mike wants to live in Kenya. So it is that understanding that the challenges are just the same, maybe different level of development, different level of structures, but we are the same. Once we do that, then working together will be easier. I can be able to give an opinion. I mean, the average Kenyan would not even be able to give a good opinion in a session like this, because they feel like these are Americans they are talking to, and yet it is just me and you, humanity, working together and just understanding. Yeah.
Betty, what would it take for me to become a citizen of Kenya?
Very
I mean,
easy.
you want us to get together. You want me to communicate. I understand. I agree with it. But how can I become a citizen of Kenya? If you that's the only way that I'm gonna feel like I'm a real stakeholder. So how can I do that?
Let's first give you an investor visa, and we'll take it from there. Are you married? Perhaps I could get you someone this side. Well, my sister is married to an American. He's now a Kenyan.
And the investor visa means I got to commit or show the capacity to spend $500,000. What
Not
if I don't
necessarily.
have?
Not necessarily.
What do I have to do to get an investor visa? How much?
It's 200,000 Kenya shillings, which would be what? That is $1,500 or $2,000 at the tops. Yeah. First, you get the investor visa.
All right, so
we are happy to have you.
Put my visa in the mail, and I'll wire you. I'll send you a check.
Super, and then we'll get you an apartment or something, and you're in. The rest we'll work it out.
So Betty, there's one thing we have not covered. Do you see Latin America represented at GTEx?
Latin America, I don't think so. I just saw America, and I saw Asia and the other countries. I can't say I saw Latin America.
Betty, do people in Africa realize the struggles of African Americans with white Americans a lot of times? Do they understand the racism that we deal with?
Absolutely not. We think you're living in a good world, and maybe we even think you exaggerate the issues you're facing there. We wish we were in America most of the time. So when you talk about racism, we are wondering, like, what's that about? Yeah, we feel you're already living well. So maybe it is our level of problems. What level of problems are you living with in America on average? And I know some maybe are struggling to get a meal on the table, but on average, maybe Africans, we are way below the poverty line. So putting a meal on the table for the larger majority is huge. So I'm not even going to talk about racism in Kenya before I put food on their table. That's the problem, I think.
How often, the impression, let me ask this question. The impression that Kenyans and maybe other Africans have of Black folk in America is what you see of when you see LeBron James or Michael Jordan or Michael Haney or Ani Glover or Andy, but you don't see the hundreds and thousands of Black kids every day who don't have food on the table. You don't see the hundreds of thousands of millions of Black kids who don't have a roof over their head. You don't see, because CNN is not going to tell you about that part of America.
Yep.
They're not going to show you. They're not going to show that to you. So you have so your impression of Black folk is in America is, if you're not ahead, it's because you must be lazy. It's because you don't take advantage of the opportunities that you have. That is the impression that I suspect. I don't know. I've never been to Kenya.
It is.
That is the impression that you're given.
Actually, I think even if we could put it down to even how you speak your English, you come to Kenya with an American accent, you're already superior to us. We think you're ahead of us. Just fine. Your American accent, it's as sad as that.
Yeah.
So we have no clue what you call the struggle in
Right.
America.
Right.
Yeah. Like
But,
basic
I mean,
things like everyone who's struggling to make it will say, I need an American visa. You have an American visa. I mean, they think it's making it, and it's not. It's
what do you know?
unfortunate.
What do you know of Patrice Lumumba? What do you know about what do you know of the Africans who have tried to, or the Organization of the United States of Africa, for example, who tried to promote unity within the African nations? Is there such a movement underway now in Kenya and other parts of Africa?
Well, it's more talk than any action.
Oh, okay.
It's absolutely, I think, impossible to have a real conversation going that direction yet because of all the political issues that are within countries. I mean, getting East Africa, which is like 3 or 4 countries together to speak the same language is hard enough. Getting the AU and all countries to sign up for the African Union is hard enough. So if you're going to talk about a united currency and having one president, if you ask me if there's going to be a president of the United States of Africa, there's gonna be war and death before that can ever happen. I don't see it in the near future, not in this generation.
Okay.
That's my opinion. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, guys, we got a flight to get ready to catch.
All right.
But Andy, I have to point this out. You would have loved this. We were in a session this morning, and it was about technology and cyber hacking. And the lady who was the head of intelligence out of Canada, and she was a tough cookie. And what she was saying is, you should never pay a hacker.
Yeah.
She said, why should we reward people for a bad habit?
Is that sort of
Really
like
shouldn't pay a hacker.
negotiate with terrorists type thing?
Yes, the terrorists, anything, any kind of hacking your business line, anything. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's why backups are important, because if you get hacked, at least you can cut them off.
At least you can cut them off, and then,
yeah.
like she said, her department can then figure out how it happened and how it came in. At least you got your backup. You're not starting all over from scratch.
Well, good luck with that. I can't even figure out how to shut down my Facebook account that got hacked, and people are calling me, ask me if I have a Honda for sale, and I've never owned a Honda in my life.
And it was so amazing because I know about technology. I know enough to be dangerous. That's what I told that. And they had this whole thing set up where they had a whole globe, and they could see all the hacks coming in from AP address where they were coming from, and it was amazing how many hits Dubai was getting from Denmark. And so they said and I was like, oh my gosh. And I was talking to the guy. He said, well, we have these little honeypots set up. So they call honeypots, I think.
Yeah,
and they think they're really hitting the servers and stuff, but they're not.
Right,
But
right.
I mean, it was just way above my head. That was amazing.
I got it. I understand the principle. I can't push the button to make it happen, but I understand the principle.
Right. And I even saw little where the United States was going out trying to hit hack. Somebody from the USA was a hacker coming in. It was amazing.
And most of the hacks were to the military. That was very interesting. Military, then banks, way ahead of industry and other sectors.
The military normally it always is. Isn't that interesting? In almost every culture, the military gets it first.
The banks.
I mean, the internet. The military had the internet 20 years before it was available to consumers.
Mm-hmm.
Rommel was crossing the desert with in tanks years before people realized that you didn't have to have a camel to do it.
You ain't lying though. Definitely not lying.
Everyone thought they needed it.
It's interesting. It's very interesting. Eisenhower warned of the military-industrial combine, and he was right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right, guys.
What happened to our host? What Donnie?
I don't know. We lost the host and Mike Haney. Now that's when we need the robot. When they disappear.
I don't know how to do that.
Disappearing. Don't want to do any more work. That's when the robot comes in.
I have a 10:15 appointment. I got to. Oh, here's Donnie back.
There's Donnie.
Go.
This has been real. Any closing thoughts, Andy?
Closing thoughts.
I think a lot of countries, particularly countries like Haiti, Black communities and whatnot, we need to figure out a way to get ahead of this technology, because as opposed to letting it affect us, we could leverage this thing, because just like everything else, if we can get to it first, we can be the masters of the domain.
Mr. Dashiell?
I want to be the one who decides who decides.
Betty, Kat?
I want the human touch all the time.
Closing thoughts.
Michael Haney.
Michael Haney.
Hey, Donnie, it's been amazing, man.
If we can't get him, Janie will speak for him.
Hey, yeah, absolutely. Hey, listen, it's been amazing. We've been around the world with Donnie on many shows, many platforms. It's great to bring our people information from locations. So thanks, Donnie, for having us on, man. That's all I have. Here's Kat.
Yeah. I think Barry is.
Yeah, Donnie. I'm going to get off. We're going to get off of here, but yes. But my closing remarks: give me the Haney touch anytime.
Oh yeah.
Up to date, down tomorrow. Do your day and everything will follow. Nothing to it but to do it. I got to do it regardless of how I feel. I am somebody. I am my brother's keeper. Good morning and good evening, world.